Welcome to Season 6 of the Long-Winded One podcast. This is Spoiler Sessions, LitRPG, the only show where spoilers don't spoil anything. We're digging into fan theories, side characters, and the lore authors left in the drawer.
All right, well, welcome everybody back to Season 6 of my podcast. This is Spoiler Sessions. We're on episode 27 of the season, and with us tonight, I have Dakota from the UpperPen Podcast. She's an old friend. Well, she's not old, but she and I go back a long way. And we have author extraordinaire Ryan Tang, who we're going to be talking to. And he's outside. He was able to join us from wherever he is. He said he was high up somewhere. I think he'll tell us about it. Ryan, where are you?
No, my parents basically just live in like a really high up area in California. I was visiting them for the weekend, and I was like, their internet connection is very, very bad. And I'm in general, I'm like a pretty not low tech person, like unupdated iPhone, very old computer, all that kind of thing. So I was like, okay, my connection is not working. I'm going to start connecting. And as you guys saw, I was literally walking down the mountain trying to call you guys, and you were like, this isn't working. So I was like, well, now I'm at the place where they actually consistently do have internet, so I'm just going to call in from here.
Well, we appreciate it, and we're happy to have you. So you joined us at a really great time. We're kind of ramping up right now to get to LitRPG Con, and we're about 7 weeks out right now, if you can believe that. And I know you're going to be joining us for
yes.
one day, right?
Yes. I have an event. Basically, I have an event on that Sunday, but I was like, you can't miss this. Like, everyone's going to be there, so I'm just flying in on Saturday. Going to make sure to give everyone my regards and just make sure to like see everyone, because it's like such a lovely, wonderful event.
It's fantastic. Yeah. Did you come last year?
I did. I went last year for all 3 days and did the panels and stuff, which was super fun. I look forward to potentially doing that in the future. But I just this one weekend I just happened to have to do the hit and run. So
yeah. Life happens, man. And Dakota, are you going to join us one of these years?
Probably not this year, but I'm going to try for next year.
That'll be awesome. Oh, Ryan's back, I think. Okay, here he is.
Out in an actual, I just drove to the downtown location. It should be fine. I could not believe that happened. I'm so sorry about that. Basically whenever they do work in the mountains, it knocks down all the connections. So because they were doing work up there, I could not leave the mountain. This sounds like I'm so sorry about that. I am so appreciative of you guys waiting. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, don't worry about it. It's a good thing that Dakota and I like each other, and can just hang out and chat. So people. It's funny. People have been popping in and out. And what's cool about this is I'll just actually cut out the middle, right? Yeah. So from 1 minute it'll look like you're a magician. Like 1 minute you'll be sitting on a park bench, and then you're going to be sitting in your car.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's all good. It's we'll just say, Ryan, you're working obviously from your office right now.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Okay, well, we've already done kind of the introduction, Ryan. So if it's okay, while you were out, I mentioned some of the books that you've written, some of the ones that you've co-authored, and I mentioned that we're going to focus tonight mostly on Mimic and Me and this Second Chance Circus. Yeah. Which is
what people really like.
Yeah, which we were talking to Dakota, and I was saying, I don't know how you did it, releasing, because you released the audiobook and the ebook in the same month, right? In I think it was December 2025. Is that right?
For Second Chance Circus?
Yes.
Oh, yes. But that one we coordinated. So I had a deal with Tantor Publishing on that one, and they really liked the book. So we're doing 3 of them. I'm actually going to work on the second one soon. And what we did was we just synced up the release, basically. We were like, let's try to make sure that people can get this at the same time. So yeah.
That's awesome. And I know people have, I've talked to authors, and they're like, well, I like to stagger it, right? I like to do the ebook first. And I'm like, well, if I could release them both together, I would. Dakota,
yes.
What do you think, Dakota? I saw you nodding.
I think releasing the audiobook as soon as you possibly can with LitRPG is your best bet, honestly. Even if you like, the ebook is important, but I think the audiobook is more important for a lot of.
In my experience, but obviously I think Sabbath has a really, really good team too. So
Yeah.
I think that they're just doing an amazing job on it. But most of my income from Mimic and Me does come from the audiobook. So I do know that I would say that's most like maybe like 60% or something like that. So people really like really like the audiobook, and I think in general they really like them in LitRPG. I've noticed that a lot of LitRPGs, they tend to have more review for audiobook than ebook, or like even just like on the groups, like more discussion for audio group than ebook. So
yeah, 100% right. Yeah. And if you're just tuning in, or if you're tuning in later, we did have some technical difficulties, but we are going to plow through this. And poor Ryan has to do this interview from his car, but I really appreciate him coming back and making the effort to be with us here. So let's just get right into this. We're gonna start with Mimic and Me. And we discussed these questions ahead of time, and you gave us a list of questions that you thought people would really want to hear about, and we're gonna like ask like specific questions about character and story elements. And so the first question is: fans were deeply curious about Chester's past, and in case you're wondering, Chester is a mimic, right, from Mimic and Me. Can you talk about the various ways that you revealed the bits and pieces of Chester's past throughout the story?
Yeah, totally. So do you kind of mean this from like almost like a craft point of view, like just in terms of like how I try to seed it in throughout?
Yeah, please.
Okay, yeah, totally. So one thing that really happened with Mimic and Me that made this process like very, very interesting is I think that my co-author on the series is definitely more of like a pantser co-author, where he likes to come up with stuff on the fly. He tends to be very, very fluid. I think he likes to chase stuff that like really captures his interest at the time, but it can be a little mercurial, both in a good way and a bad way. I think in a good way, because it can be like, oh my god, like there's like so much, this is like just so jam-packed with action, there's like so much stuff in here. And it's sometimes in a bad way, where people will like you'll be like a fan, you're reading it, and you're like, oh my god, I was like really vibing with this plot point, but then it turned out to be like not as major as I hoped it would be, like that type of thing, right? So with Chester's past, that was one where like I think people always really, really, really cared about it, right? Because what happens is that it's kind of like an old school Essentials story in like old school D&D. Like I played that with my friends before. It's kind of like a mimic and like a hireling. Like he's like a low level guy. He's just there to scout out the dungeon. He finds this mimic there where it's like quite a bit stronger than all the other monsters in the dungeon. He has no idea what's going on, and it's like a mimic that clearly has like a lot of knowledge of like human culture and activity. Like he knows that like people will check the treasure chest, so he pretends to be something else, like all that, like that type of thing. Like, and there's a lot of stuff like that. So I was like, okay, so by that point I was already starting to come together with like, okay, like here's how we can make this like work, I guess, kind of like, because what happens like a lot of times with me and Cassius is like he'll have like a lot of ideas that are like, and I'll be like, okay, like let's figure out how we can make all these work, because like I feel like all of his ideas tend to be very, very good, but it can be difficult to have like such like a wide spread of ideas and have them like all like work or all be like narratively cohesive, right? So I was like, okay, well, let's have a conversation about this. Let's like, what do we really, really want to have here? So what we really want to have is, it's very important for the mimic to have had a bonded partner before, because otherwise he wouldn't know how to bond with the main character, right? I was like, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. So let's add that to the story. Let's make sure that we know that. And it's like, well, number two, if he has had a bonded partner before, because this is like a comedy, like what would be funny about having like a bonded partner? So we were like one of the big themes in the story is like opposites attract, where like the main character is kind of this very shy, very timid guy, and then the mimic is this like monster, right? So they don't really know how to communicate with each other at first. So we're like, okay, well, if the mimic is going to help this guy like kind of break out of his shell, how would that work? So we kind of came up with like a sketch for his old partner. His old partner is like a guy who was also quite shy and timid, but was like kind of like a pacifist. So the mimic was like, well, if I'm bonding with this guy again who reminds me of my friend, I was like, well, we kind of got screwed over last time by being too much of a pacifist, so we better like be a little bit more active. So we started seeding that into the story too. And then another one was like, we eventually wanted to make it so that like I think the thing that people really, really like about the story, like this is one of the key elements, it's almost like a visual gag, even though it's a book, is him turning into like these like big vehicles or like crazy stuff like that, right? So we're like, okay, well, if he's going to turn into vehicles, we need to make sure that makes sense, right? Like not every mimic can turn into vehicles. Like I've actually had people tell me like they'll be like fans of like D&D, or they'll be fans of like Final Fantasy, or they'll be fans of like other games with like mimics in them, and they'll just message you, but hey, yo, man, like in this game, the mimic is basically this monster pretends to be a treasure chest, or it's like a monster that can turn into stuff, but it's very, very limited. And I was like, well, that totally makes sense. And I think this is both something that's new to people that they want to see, and also it's got to be tied into his past. So we're like, okay, well, if that's such a big part of his past, right, then he must be like very powerful. Like he can't just be like a Joe Schmo mimic. He's got to be like very, very powerful. So that's where like a lot of the Calamity stuff that came in the book came in, where the Calamities are these like kind of like super evolved monsters. They're like there's like a Calamity that's kind of like based on like Mist, the Borealis, and he's like a super, like he's like a chimeric he's like a chimera of like all these flying creatures, right? He's like a dragon, and he has like some bird aspects and all this stuff. And we're like, okay, well, if that's gonna happen with Chester, he's got to be like basically like a chimeric mimic, right? So how can we come up with that? Like, what are other creatures that are like kind of similar to mimics? Like that's where some of the other ideas like the skin clones came from, where we were like, well, it would make sense for him to eventually gain this power, because like clones, that's kind of like mimics too, or like shapeshifters or doppelgangers. Like it'd be kind of cool if there's all these like transformation elements that are imbued in his original form. So we were kind of like trying to figure out, and then as we kept figuring out like how to make all these ideas make sense, or figured out how to make all these, because again, I do think that what people really like about it is that it's a comedy where we figured out how to make all these aspects funny. We were then able to see these things throughout the story, where it's like in book one, when he finds him, he's just gotten unbonded from his friend. He's looking for a new buddy. So we kind of show up by like why does this guy like eating like human food so much, or some of these like random jokes like that. And then eventually it evolves to the mimic is like scared of like big monsters, or is scared of fire, and that's how when he got like injured in his god days. So we start like seeding that into, and then I feel like it's kind of like a process where like you have to know enough of what's going on, right? Like you can't just be like, all right, I'm just gonna figure it all out later, because that doesn't make sense, because that's like his past, like in the logic of the story that's already happened. But I do think that a lot of times what I like to do is it's almost like I'm using the past to build out the future, which I guess is like how that works in real life too. Because I'm like, okay, well, like we need to figure out, like we want Chester to have this ability. How does it make sense for him to have this ability? And if he has this ability, and if he has this past, like then logically speaking, like there has to be these other godly monsters too. Like he can't just be the only one. So that's how we were able to build out the next group of antagonists and stuff like that. So that was kind of like how we were able to kind of seed the whole thing out throughout the story, basically.
That's awesome. And like you got into a little bit about what we're going to talk about in the next question. I think Dakota has a question for you about kind of working with Cassius, and so but you've worked with other people too in the past, right? Like
yes,
you've co-written with Shammy, and some other people too, right? So
yes.
So it sounds like maybe, and I don't want to steal your thunder, Dakota, with your question, but like I am very interested how you meet these people, and like how you structure all, like how you plan this out. Do you like, anyway, I want to go into question number 2. No, with you knowing that I'm interested in this stuff.
I'll answer both of those. That makes a lot of sense. Yes.
Okay.
Well, so my question is very much like you mentioned that Cassius is a less of a plotter and more of a let's see what happens kind of person.
Yeah, for sure.
So how far can you plan these stories out, and like how much are you guys doing together versus like you have this project and you have this project? I
would say that the series is pretty done together. I feel like so basically what happened was in book 1 and 2 he kind of had he kind of was working on it, and he had like a pretty good idea for what was happening in the story before he brought me in. And I've already worked with him on other stories before, so when he gave it to both books to me, they were around maybe like 70 to 80, 90,000 words, maybe I think it's closer to 70,000. And then I added a lot of stuff to them to kind of like help fit the story together. Like one thing that I saw the question list, so I'm going to bring this one up to here because it kind of is related. I feel like one thing that kind of happens is because we also were writing it on Royal Road too, and I was adding a lot of stuff to it. What happens is that sometimes the story is like I said in one of these questions, it's kind of like a series of comedic bits where it's like, okay, so he's in the dungeon, and then he has to like figure out how to beat all the guys in the dungeon. Then he's like trying to steal stuff from the town. Here's how he figures out to steal stuff from the town. Then he's like on this like other adventure quest. Here's how he figures that out. So I think that the strength of that is that we included a lot of stuff that the readers really like, and I know that a lot of people because of a lot of the ideas and stuff that Cassius comes up with. People will be like, oh, I really like the brothers, or oh, I really like the demons, or I really like this specific dungeon or this specific boss that they did. I think Cassius does a good job of like just coming up with stuff that people like, basically. And I think that's I think that was really good. And then I think the thing that I was able to really bring to the table is I did like I said, the story's finished up being like maybe like 170 or 180,000 words. So there's a lot of stuff that's added to it that's from me, but it's because I feel like a lot of times when you come up with like a premise or an idea, like actually it's funny. I had a discussion like this with another one of my friends who does humorous fiction, and he was saying that like there's like a difference between like a premise and a joke, where like a premise is like, oh, that's like a funny idea, or like a joke is like when you like actually like tell like a joke, you're like, oh my god, that's like really, really funny. You know what I mean? And I feel like Cash is really good at coming up with a premise, and then I'm good at like kind of expanding them into more like jokes or scenes. You know what I mean? So like I said, that's why I feel like for book 1 and 2, it's like the story had this very tight, very very appealing core of like 80,000 words, but I was able to like expand it out because I was like, I think people would really like this. Let me like really fondle, like let me like really like build it out a little bit, right? Or let me like the stuff where I was talking about with the past in the previous question. It's like, well, like let me like kind of add in like some foreshadowing here. Or now that I've like synthesized how to make this all make sense and be able to build like a big world out of it, let's make sure that that's like consistent or seeded throughout, right? So I feel like that's kind of like was the strength in this particular working relationship, and I think it worked pretty well for comedy. And actually, I think we're going to put out like another book or two in a different series pretty soon. So obviously, I'm still working on Mimic and Me's. I plan on finishing Mimic and Me 6 by the end of this year. I've got quite a few other things that I'm just always trying to like. I have a lot of ideas, so I'm always trying to work on them. But I do think that Cassius and I will have a couple other collaborations coming out that he sent me some really, really good stuff for. So I look forward to building that out in that specific manner. I think is how that collaboration works. And then to answer Jared's question, yeah, I've done quite a few co-authored books before, and I would say that my working relationship just depends on the partner. I feel like I said this before, the disconnection, all caps, but I'm like a sports coach, so I feel like because of like my sports background and like helping like students or players work together, I feel like I'm really good at that as like an author. So like when I work with like different authors, like my Shami or my friend Scott, or actually I have another collaboration that I'm pretty excited about with a pretty like a very good successful author who I'm like teasing here, like I don't want to announce it before he does, but I'm just like teasing it, but I feel like in all those I feel like I'm able to really figure out how to work together and figure out how to use my skills. Because with Shami, usually we come up with an outline together because we're both like more plotters, and I think that works well because that's really fun. Like a lot of times what happens is that like I'll just like me and Shami will just call and we'll basically just joke around for like a couple hours, and we'll have like a pretty good plot. Like I remember for Crown Tournament, what happened was, and we're actually working on another book, so I'm gonna call her Tuesday, and we're gonna hammer out this outline. So I was saying that for Crown Tournament, we met at this like Olive Garden, and we just like talked about it for like 3 hours. So I'm like, okay, cool, we figured it out. This is what's gonna happen. And then like she sent me the outline, and her outline's like hella detailed, which was really good. Like it's like a 5,000 word outline. So then I did the rough draft, and then from there because it's in her fifth world, she like just made it hella consistent to her world, up to my writing and just up the tone to fit. Because she's like a YA specialist, she knows way more than me about that, and just upped it to all fit in to what's going on, right? And then meanwhile for my friend Scott. We actually have a book that's coming out with Aethon, Tactician Reborn, that I think people are going to really like. Scott is a big fan of like Dark Souls or like Berserk, like that type of dark fantasy aesthetic. And I was working on him with the dark fantasy, and I like dark fantasy and I like horror and like stuff like that. But I'm like kind of like I'm not like I'm not like the most courageous fellow around. So I don't know like how it's tough to imagine all this like scary stuff. So I think what happened was that I wrote the outline for that. I wrote the overall book for that, and I sent it to Scott, and I was like, hey Scott, like let's work together on this, like how about you punch this up and come up with, and then from there on, after you punch up my book 1, then you work on book 2 and 3 and like come up with like more ideas for this world and stuff. And then I feel like that's also going to be a really good working relationship, because I feel like so for all 3 of them they're very, very different, but I guess for all of them I did a lot of the primary writing. But I like doing that because it's like it's what's the word I'm looking for, it's I like feeling just being on the computer and working, So
yeah. Well, I mean, there has to be. It sounds like sounds like you have a lot of skills, not just writing, right? Like you have to, in order to take somebody else's writing and advance those premises into jokes, right? Or to advance an outline, like you have to have some editing chops, and there has to be a lot of,
for sure.
you know, and you also have to have a lot of trust with the person you're working with, right? I think I would imagine. I can't tell if we lost Ryan again. So Ryan's coming back here. 1 second, we got to get you back.
That happened. Like I straight up don't know why that happened.
It's okay. Yeah, it's okay. Well, Ryan, I want to ask the next question here,
Yes.
and then we're going to get to before you leave. I want to get to Second Chance Circus. So,
yeah, of course.
So maybe how about this? How about we skip to question 4, Dakota? You can ask that one, and then we can and then we'll get into Second Chance Circus. All right.
Yeah, for a little bit. I know people really like Mimicry, and I actually have some other LitRPG stuff that's coming out too, in addition to Second Chance Circus and Mimicry. So yeah, regardless, I'm happy to answer whatever questions people want to hear from, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So you good with that, Dakota, or you want me to ask the next one?
No, it's fine. I can do 4. So once the Calamity Arc is over and Mimic and Me, what's going to come next for Damon and Chester?
Yeah. So that I think hopefully I've done a good job of foreshadowing that heading into the next book. But what's going to happen next is there's going to be a Calamity Arc where they have to beat the big the head of the bad Calamities, Infernus. He's trying to outright take over the world, but then there's going to be like a system arc after that because what happens is that the you know, one of the themes of the story that I think comes through even from book 1 is the collaboration between like these like opposites who have no idea how to work together. So Infernus is like, he's like the, you know, he's just trying to like take over, and he's like all focused on the monster side. But eventually Damon and Chester will get a chance to you know they'll get a chance to try to show everyone how they think it should be done, how they're going to be in charge, and you know, the system's response to that is going to be interesting. It's not going to be like they're going to like you know, I'm trying to figure out the absolute best way to do it. I don't want like a simple like I feel like there's a lot of books where the main character like essentially just fight the system basically, and I think that that can be pretty good, but I feel like that wouldn't quite fit the style for Chester or Damon or for the system that I've created. So I'm trying to come up with something that would be suitably appropriate. But that is going to be next, and I need to come up with something that would really be like appropriate for the story. So I know that's next, and that's like, I think that's pretty clearly seated in the story sense. I think like book 1 or book 2 where the system is building, but I don't want it to just be like it's going to incorporate elements of just like a system fight, but I don't want it to just be like you know, the system punched hard, but Damon and Chester punched harder or something like that, right? Like I want to come up with something that would really fit the story. So that's next, but the Calamity Arc is going to go on for at least 2 or 3 more books, so I'll have time to come up with what I think is like really appropriate for the characters and for the world. So yeah.
And Ryan, do you have like does Mimic and Me have an end in mind? Like, do you guys have an end in mind? Okay.
Yes, I do. So the end is going to be it's going to be about Damon and Chester figuring out how to pick up the pieces of this wide-spanning calamity war and like all the worlds fusing together and all this like huge mess that has happened in all these other books. But you know, I mean, that's like a hard job. They're gonna have to really figure out how to do it, and since I'm the real person figuring out how they're gonna have to do it, I'm gonna have to figure out how they're gonna do it. So I know that's what I want to happen. I have the arcs of like the slaver arc. The way I think about it is like that's like kind of level 1. That's like they're just like battling like other evil humans, basically other people with magical powers. Then the Calamity Arc is like, okay, well now they're fighting like these other gods so like Chester's not like completely overpowered anymore. Like he's fighting like against equals. And then the system arc and the Infernus stuff is gonna kind of like blend into the system arc, because Infernus is gonna be like a lot stronger than the other Calamities. It's like, okay, well now they're fighting people who are way stronger than them, but also the stakes are a lot higher. Like if you beat like a slaver, you can just be like, all right, cool guys, like, you know, like what happens in like, it's obviously not that simple, but like the administrative work of what happens after is like relatively simpler compared to like, okay, well now I'm in charge of existence, right? So that's what I'm gonna have to make sure is done very appropriately, and that's the ending I have in mind for the series.
And is there a book quantity that you can tell us about? Like, is there?
I would like for there to be. It would be cool if there was like a nice even 10 books, but I don't want to like drag out the story past like what really makes sense. I can also see going longer than 10 books if that's what's needed, but I need to really come up with how to make the Calamity Arc really work, and then I need to figure out how to make the system arc really work. So that's what I'm going to be really focusing on next. And I actually have I just keep like talking about all the stuff that I want to do, but I for my Kickstarter Mimic and Me, I actually wrote these like 3 little, like, it was like kind of like 20,000 words total. It was like basically like a novella of what would happen if Chester and Damon were living in the modern world. So that's like a story that I think I actually want to work on. Like, it might be like a separate Mimic and Me story, where, because I think that if you live in a modern world as a Mimic, there's like so much other funny stuff you can turn into, like a computer, or like I know people joke about like the Amazon box Mimic, like stuff like that. Like, I feel like there's like a lot of funny stuff. So that's something else I'm going to work on. So I definitely want to keep working on like the Mimic and Me style stories, or even just this general story of like humorous buddy, like LitRPG, like humor, that type of thing. But yeah, that my main focus right now is going to be on finishing Mimic and Me. That's what I'm always focused on. Like, and when I don't work on it, it's usually because I'm like coming up with these ideas. Because like I said, there's a lot of stuff that I want to make sure really fits.
There's a lot of stuff going on upstairs, I can tell. But I was gonna say, like, you could, Beware of Chicken has an alternative, like an alternate universe, I believe.
Oh,
so.
Really?
So you should, so you could have like the modern day Mimic and Me, that you were talking about, in an alternate universe if you wanted to.
Yeah, that sounds fun. I'll have to check it out. Yeah, that sounds great.
So all right, so let's shift gears a little bit here to Second Chance Circus, okay? And you've alluded, so we have one question on that, and then I just generally want to hear more about the series and kind of what you have going on.
Oh, of course.
But so you mentioned, I'm just going to read the question because you've alluded to this already. So you've noted that Mimic and Me often functioned as a series of comedic bits tied together, which works well when you're releasing it on something like Royal Road, right? But when you try to compile it together as a series, that can sometimes be problematic, require rewrites or edits or whatever. So how did that experience lead you to change your writing process for Second Chance Circus?
Yeah, thank you. That's actually a question I've been thinking about, because I actually finished another book pretty recently that I also feel like I had to do this similar process for, which is, I feel like in Mimic and Me, I do think this is a weakness, but it just came from us, like obviously it was like our first like really, really good book, right? So I was like, okay, like one that did really well with a lot of fans. So I was like, okay, well, like what could really be improved from that? And I like a lot of the ideas, because a lot of the ideas that are in it are like, oh, it'd be funny if like a guy who could turn into like objects turned into like there's like a scene where he kind of turns into a barrel and he like rolls down like a street, like kind of like a Jackie Chan style bit, right? And I like a lot of that stuff, and it's really funny. But what I really want is like kind of like I do like the process we came up with of like building out like these future enemies from Chester's past, basically, like I said, right? And I was like, well, I want to do a story that involves like a lot of that. So in Second Chance Circus, it's about this guy who's like a necromancer, and he he just wants to start a circus. Like it's like a cozy fantasy. Like he doesn't want to rule the world and stuff like that. So I took that premise and I like really built it out. I was like, okay, well, like a good antagonist would be someone who does want to use necromancy to rule the world. And I was like, okay, well, like if who's he going to recruit for his circus? But then I was like, well, if he can recruit all these like zombies for his circus, I want each of these zombies to be from like a different time period, because then I can build out the history of the world with that, right? So I got this guy Karn. He's like this like great warrior, and I was like, okay, well, he builds up this guy, and then Karn is the prehistoric era. So how did the world look like in the prehistoric era? And then critically, there's a lot of like modern world building jokes where it's like, oh, Karn, he's like, yo, this used to be like the tallest mountain in the province, man, and then like they like make fun of him because the mountain got eroded and it's like a short mountain now, like stuff like that. So like I was like, okay, well, like how can you come up with like these jokes that also tie into history, that also tie into these characters? And I feel like that's something that I've been really working on with Mimic and Me, and I also really want to nail this like some more versions of like the Mimic and Me story too. So that really had a big impact on my writing process, because I was like, it's like, what do I like the most, and what do my fans like the most, and how can I like just make sure like all my stories like that, so it's like a lot tighter, you know what I mean? So I've been really working hard on that, and I have some more books coming out. Like I said, I have Mimic and Me 6, and that's like getting really into the swing of the Calamity Arc now. I feel like at the end of Mimic and Me 5, that's like the real kickoff of the Calamity Arc, because it's revealed that he can like fuse with the Calamities and stuff. So that's like the real kickoff of what's the big showdown that's gonna be happening next. And I feel like that's now I'm on, now that I've kind of learned my lessons from Mimic Me. I'm hoping to bring that to all my books, and it involves a lot of rewriting, which is a little challenging because I feel like that's the one part that's a little bit challenging because I'm like, obviously if you put out a book and it does really well, I feel like you there's like a degree of luck, right? Like in your release, like there's definitely a lot of luck. Like I see some books that are really good, and I'm like, oh my god, this book was so good. I love this book. Why didn't it get as much vibes as me? Like I'm not even I'm just comparing it to myself. I was like, well, I thought this guy was better than me. Like what the heck is happening, right? So I feel like when that happens, so I feel like that sometimes with some of my books. I'm like, oh my god, I rewrote this so many times. Like I rewrote this like 6-7 times or whatever, and I put it out and it didn't do as good as I'd like. But then I'm like, well, like you also got to think about the process because I feel like there's some time periods where I'm like, oh, like if I put this out and it did really well, and I put up all this like these rewrites and efforts into it, and it does really well, then people are going to really want to read book 2, book 3, book 4, and because of all the details that you put into book 1, like I feel like almost like the best writing style is like a combo of pantsing and plotting, where your understanding of the world and your understanding of the plot and the characters' motivations is so great. You can just come up with what happens next because you have such a deep understanding of the world. So I feel like doing a lot of these rewrites and thoughts, both for Mimic Me and for Second Chance Circus, it like really helps me come up with the future stuff in the book. You know what I mean? So yeah.
I definitely do. Planting, we call it.
Yeah, planting. Okay, yeah.
So I out of all of those things that you just said, my mind can't get off of one thing, and I haven't read this first book in Second Chance Circus yet. But you mentioned a character, which I love punny names. You mentioned a character named Carney. Is that right, or Karn?
Karn, yeah, Karn.
Is that a pun off of the whole?
A lot of the characters' jokes,
okay.
And yes, a lot of the names in Second Chance Circus are jokes because it's a humor. So yeah, Karn, yeah. So the second book, it's gonna be a little bit more apparent because it's Second Chance Carnival. So he's gonna be like, no. And then there's like another character named Pennington who everyone calls him Pennington the monster. You know, it's like a Frankenstein joke. So every character in in Second Chance Circus, their name is like secretly a joke. Like if you read it, you'll be like, okay, like I get the joke that's going on here. So yeah.
If you haven't read Jared's book, Get Trucked, all of his names are puns.
Okay.
For road things.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Thank you for the plug, Dakota.
No, that's great. Thank you. Yes.
So Ryan, we have kept you for a very long time. I've kept Dakota for a very long time.
You guys for a very long time. Thank you so much.
No, but I want to say thank you, and I want to know, like, obviously we're going to see you for I think Saturday of LitRPG Con.
Yes, please. I'll get you guys my I saw you sent me your number on email. I'll email my number to you guys, and we'll definitely meet up then. I would really look forward to meeting you guys in person.
That's awesome. And tell us what you have coming out and where we can find you before and after LitRPG Con.
Yes. So you can just find me on my Amazon page at Ryan Tang. And you can also find me on Facebook and Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Ryan Tang Author. There is another Ryan Tang who is much more famous than me, so make sure to look up Ryan Tang Author. And then there's also like I said, my Amazon page. I have a new series that's going to be coming out on Royal Road. It's going to be either next week or the week after. And the reason why for the potential delay is that I'm waiting for there's a slight adjustment I'm making to my cover. When I get that adjustment, it will be put on Royal Road. It's a barbarian LitRPG in a cyberpunk world. So there's a lot of chaos, a lot of jokes there. It's just about this barbarian who wakes up in this kind of like a complete very satirical cyberpunk world. He's like, no, this is nonsense. I'm going to smash through it. And then I have another book that's coming out with Aethon, Tactician Reborn. It's a time loop LitRPG set in a Dark Souls like world. So they have to fight these like great hulking monstrosities. And of course, Mimic and Me, which book 5 audiobook I'm hoping comes out soon. We're planning on kind of like having a book 1 to like a box set come out near LitRPG Con, and then the book coming out near LitRPG Con 2, and then I need to work hard on book 6 and finish them because I see a lot of very good authors that Soundbooth works with. They always seem to be quite a bit deeper in their series than me, so I need to be working harder. So yeah,
I think 5 or 6 books is pretty awesome, and it's not like you're resting on your laurels. Like you are busy.
Thank you.
Yeah. But thank you again, both of you, for coming.
Sorry for the staff room. Thank you so much for waiting, and really look forward to seeing you guys in person.
All right. Take care, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye.
It just